Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. A court hears how the man on trial for murdering a West Yorkshire police officer drank champagne the night before an armed robbery where she was shot dead. We'll have the latest from the Leeds trial. Also tonight, a woman who was attacked by cows says she hopes lessons can be learnt after a farmer's find.
I still have visions of 3 cows' heads this close, pinning me to the hedge before I was attacked.
How our disused coal fields could become a gold mine to heat our homes in the future.
Happy Valentine's, Phil. Thanks for putting up with me. Love you.
You've been getting in touch on Valentine's Day. We'll hear your declarations of love.
Well, there's just about sums today's weather up. A rainbow, sufficient brightness for that, but a lot of cloud and some patchy rain. Believe it or not, tomorrow, some spots might reach 16 degrees. Join me for that latest forecast.
Hello, I hope you're well on this Wednesday evening. A court has heard members of a gang involved in an armed robbery which killed a West Yorkshire police officer had drunk champagne and vodka the night before an armed robbery. PC Sharon Beshanivsky died and her colleague PC Theresa Milburn was seriously injured after they were shot during the raids at a Bradford travel agent in 2005. Piran Disakhan is on trial accused of murder and firearms offences. He denies the charges. Phil Bodmer was in court. Phil, we can cross live to him now. Just remind us of the background to this case.
Well, what happened, Amy, on that dark November afternoon back in 2005 shook the city and indeed the nation. PC Sharon Beshanivsky, as you mentioned, was shot dead, and her colleague PC Theresa Milburn was seriously injured during the raid on the Universal Express travel agency. Both officers arrived first on the scene and they were unarmed. Now, the prosecution says or alleges that Piran Disakhan orchestrated the robbery at Universal Express. 6 men have already been convicted in connection with the raid, but Piran Disakhan fled to Pakistan 3 months after PC Beshanivsky died and remained there until his extradition back to the UK last year. Now, although Mr. Khan is alleged to have stayed in one of 3 cars during the raid in Bradford, the Crown contends that he is guilty of murder because he was involved in the planning, Amy, and he also knew that loaded firearms were being used in the raid too.
Tell us what else was said in court today, Phil.
Well, also in court today, Robert Smith KC for the prosecution began by going through detailed technical information regarding mobile phone data. The jury saw CCTV and maps showing the movement and connection between various vehicles involved in this operation in the days ahead of the robbery. Mr. Smith says phone records show the defendant was in regular contact with other members of the gang. They also used a house on Hare Hills Lane in Leeds as a base. 3 vehicles travelled in convoy on the day of the raid, but the jury heard how the defendant was referred to as uncle by other members of the gang, and some members of that group drank champagne, drank vodka, and then went to a brothel in Leeds on the night before the raid in question.
And just briefly, what about the firearms that were used on the day?
Well, Mr. Smith for the prosecution said 4 shots were fired in total on that day. He said the first was likely to have been the fatal shot which killed PC Beshanivsky. The second was the one that struck PC Theresa Milburn. We heard the convoy travelled with a 9mm self-loading pistol and a machine gun, cable ties and a knife in a laptop case were also on that convoy as well. Amy.
Phil, thank you. Next tonight, how Yorkshire's disused mines could help to heat tens of thousands of homes years after our coal-fired power stations closed. Wakefield and Kirklees Council are looking at plans for the National Coal Mining Museum to harness mine water, which is naturally heated, to warm nearby houses. Our climate correspondent Paul Hudson reports on how a once very dirty industry could help Britain's energy supply go green.
Since the advent of the Industrial Revolution, coal has been used in huge quantities for heat and power to fuel our economy. But in doing so, trillions of cubic metres of greenhouse gases were released into the atmosphere. Yorkshire's coal industry is long gone, and with it the damaging greenhouse gases that has led to climate change. But could these very coal mines help us reach net zero and tackle the very problem that they have helped create? Because deep underground in these disused coal mines, there's a source of clean energy which occurs naturally within the rocks. Water that naturally builds up in disused coal mines is heated by the warmth of the surrounding rocks. This is then pumped to the surface and used as hot water or heat for homes and businesses. I'm about to go down the pit where temperatures are around about 12 degrees warmer than here at the surface, so I want to try and sample that geothermal energy for myself. So we're around about 140 metres down at the pit face, and it's clear that temperatures are quite a bit warmer. And it's this geothermal heat, the natural heat source from the rocks that surround us, which ultimately could be used to heat homes and businesses at the surface in the surrounding area. It's estimated that millions of homes and businesses could eventually benefit from this natural source of heat and energy. The Ordnance Survey have produced detailed maps which suggest that we could be sat on a geothermal gold mine.
We ran some analysis and identified that within the vicinity of these old mine workings, there are about 6 million properties that then have the potential to be able to get benefits from geothermal heat.
Sean is an ex-miner and now works at the National Coal Mining Museum in Wakefield.
There is enough energy at this mine to provide the heat to heat the houses in Overton, New Hall Prison, and even decarbonise the whole museum.
And this is not science fiction. There's already a scheme in Gateshead up and running and successfully heating homes and businesses.
Water pumped from underground has been warmed up by the Earth's core, and in the modest building across the road, mine water at 20 degrees is transferred to a huge 6 megawatt heat pump.
And the biggest benefit of all, geothermal energy is a clean source of energy. It contributes no greenhouse gases. So who would have thought that the very coal mines that have contributed towards climate change can now help us in our journey towards net zero? Paul Hudson, BBC Look North at the National Coal Mining Museum.
A farmer from North Yorkshire has been fined after his cows attacked a woman while she was walking her dog on a public path. Janika Svet was trampled by several cows with calves in 2021 and left with life-changing injuries. Martin Falshaw from Massam has to pay more than £5,000 in fines and costs. Phil Connell reports.
It began as a pleasant walk in the North Yorkshire countryside, but for Janika Svet it ended with life-changing injuries. Hospitalised after being trampled by cows while using a popular public footpath in a field near Massam. At York Magistrates today, Martin Falshaw, the farmer who owned the cows, was fined almost £800 and ordered to pay costs of almost £5,000 after pleading guilty to breaching health and safety regulations. A fine which Janika, who's undergone 2 years of counselling, hopes will now persuade other farmers to be more careful.
I still have visions of 3 cows' heads this close, pinning me to the hedge before I was attacked, and then 3 of them, one trampled me, one knocked me down, one trampled me, and the other one rolled over me. My bowel is permanently affected and my knee is permanently affected.
Although it's not illegal for farmers to graze their cows in fields with public rights of way, the court heard how Martin Falshaw had shown insufficient regard for the public safety and had failed to put in place reasonable safety measures. Since the incident, he has taken steps to remedy the risks by erecting warning signs and permanent fencing.
The risk is very high. Fortunately in this case, the lady survived, but all too often people are killed when they're trampled by cattle, and it's kind of like a matter of chance whether or not they are or not.
I was totally ignorant of the risk, to be honest. The sign on the stiles said, put your dog on the lead because of the risk to the livestock. So that was my primary concern. I had no idea that my life was at risk.
From her experience, Janika hopes lessons can now be learnt. A simple walk in the country that's changed her life forever. Phil Connell, BBC Look North, York.
Let's have a look at some other stories coming into our newsroom now. A Huddersfield man and his parents have been jailed for abusing and drugging his wife after an arranged marriage. Abreen Fatima Sheikh suffered catastrophic brain damage after being given anti-diabetes medicine and having a corrosive substance poured over her. Her husband Asghar and his father and mother were jailed for 7 years and 9 months, while his brother and sister were given suspended sentences. Police described the crimes as truly wicked. Police say they're treating the death of a woman in Leeds as suspicious. Her body was discovered after officers were called to an address in Hare Hills on Monday. The street is still cordoned off as investigations continue, and police are appealing to anyone who may have information. An inquest has heard how a defibrillator was used in the wrong setting minutes before a woman went into cardiac arrest. Kirsty Thane from Wakefield was receiving care from a psychiatric hospital in Barnsley when she died. Staff delivered first aid after she choked on food. Ollie Constable's report contains some details that you may find distressing.
Kirsty Thane lay unresponsive on her bedroom floor at Kendry Psychiatric Hospital minutes after choking on food. The mother had a history of choking and had previously told staff about how she wanted to end her life. Her mental health issues started in 2008 after she was subjected to a serious sexual assault while on a night out. This was when her normal life started to slip away. Giving evidence today, we heard from Wayne Corbett, a paramedic who was called to try and save her life in July 2020 after she choked on a chip butty. He told the jury how a defibrillator had already been used by staff at the hospital prior to their arrival. He removed the food from Kirsty's airway and started giving CPR, but her heart rhythm was in a non-shockable state. However, he said the machine that staff had used was in the wrong mode, which could have delivered 2 electrical shocks to Kirsty. It was only after Kirsty was declared dead 40 minutes later and the defibrillator machine printed out a summary of events that Mr. Corbett realised the issue. He told the coroner the shocks could have been given against an unshockable rhythm and could have led to further complications. The inquest is set to continue tomorrow. Ollie Constable, BBC Look North in Sheffield.
Now, it's almost a year since the controversial Sheffield Clean Air Zone was launched. In that time, drivers have been charged more than £3 million. Tonight, councillors are deciding how to spend that income. Around £1 million will be used to close roads outside schools to traffic and introduce 20-mile-an-hour zones. Heidi Tomlinson is in Sheffield for us this evening. Heidi, what else can you tell us?
Well, yes, Amy, it was around a year ago that Sheffield introduced this clean air zone, and today's meeting here at the Town Hall was a chance for councillors to discuss and assess how it's gone. But let me first remind you of how it works. So, polluting commercial vehicles now have to pay to come into the centre of Sheffield. For the smaller vehicles, taxis, that kind of thing, it's £10 a day, and for those big buses and lorries, it's £50 a day. So what we want to know now really is, has it worked? Well, we don't have the figures about the levels of nitrogen dioxide in the air. They are due to be released later this year. But we do know that there are 64% fewer polluting vehicles coming into the city centre than there were before the Clean Air Zone. We also know that the council has raked in over £2.3 million worth of income as a result of those charges and those fines. And today the decision was made to plough back £1 million of that money into communities. They want to further improve the air quality for people, especially children. They're looking at a scheme called School Streets, whereby the main roads outside, mainly primary schools, are closed during peak times at 8:30 and at 3 o'clock, drop off and pick up time, so that the levels of pollution are reduced. So they want to expand that to more primary schools and some secondary schools in Sheffield. So for some parents that will be a welcome move, but for others it will be seen as an inconvenience.
The way that we're able to bring these school streets about brings the community along with us. It allows young people to talk to people in the community about why clean air is so important.
What about the parents and the carers that won't agree with this, that say they simply don't have the time to park further away and walk their child to school? They're busy getting off to work.
That's true, but of course the vast majority of parents do want to see that the air around their school that their children are breathing is much better. They want to improve the safety outside schools.
Well, the council also wants to introduce a fleet of electric buses to bring those pollution levels down. And it's gone to the government to ask for enough funds to pay for 65 electric buses. But when you look at the fleet of buses that are in Sheffield at the moment, there's 400 of them. So even if they do get this funding, there will still be a long way to go. Now, the other policies to further improve the air quality include bringing in more 20-mile-an-hour zones and creating what's called green walls, planting big walls of green plants outside schools to absorb the pollution, and also to create more bike storage areas so people are more inclined to get on their bike when they do short journeys. A year ago, Sheffield was classed as having illegal levels of pollution dangerously high. It is hoped that after a year of this clean air zone that those levels of nitrogen dioxide will have reduced. We'll know more of that later this year. But the council is counting this as a top priority because it says dirty air is a silent killer.
Heidi, thank you, and well done for keeping going through those bells. Now, next month will mark 40 years since the miners' strike. Workers walked out of pits threatened with closure, hoping they could force the government to keep them open. Well, a new documentary series tells the stories of those who lived through it. Not just the miners, but their families, the communities and the police. It features former South Yorkshire miner Don Keating and his wife Jackie. Let's have a look.
The coal board insists the pit is unproductive and uneconomic. The union says Corton Wood is still viable and full of good quality coal.
There's only pits holding this area together. If this pit goes, it'll be like a plague all up valley.
I used to go shopping to Barnsley regularly. And this guy says, "You're looking so grim, what's the matter?" And I told him. And he says, "Well, it might not ever happen." And I remember looking at him and saying, "You know what? It is, and it's going to be dreadful." I was bewildered by some of the projections of the media. I thought, it really needs to be shown that there's a different side to the miners. I knew Don didn't like the media, but unless you're willing to put your thoughts forward, then you haven't got an alternative to what they've been showing. And so I decided I would try.
What was the bill came this morning then?
Water rates, £59.11p.
I'm in a better position than most of these wives because I am working. I'm only £17 for washing up. We've had to just keep turning on the media and trying to find out if someone's going to tell us what's going to happen to our lives.
Well, Don and Jackie are here. What did happen to your lives? What was the impact in that immediate aftermath of the miners' strike, Don?
I saw at the time we didn't have a choice. You either packed it in altogether, gave up completely, or gave 200% to the cause, and that's what we chose to do.
And I know you're really proud of the role that your wife Jackie took on, because you went from being a stay-at-home mum, doing some washing up, to supporting two families on that wage and then becoming a spokesperson for the miners' families.
Yeah, it was very strange, surreal a lot of the time, but I wanted people to realise we're just an ordinary family like any other family. Where did this come from that we're the enemy? We've given our lives to bringing our children up. Don pays all his dues. Where did that all come from? And it was very bewildering at the time.
We have followed your story over the years here on Look North. Don, you were so anti-media. What suddenly made you want to tell your story, and why is it important that we do keep talking about it?
Someone just sat just to my right that made me change my mind. I'm 77 now. Jackie is, I'm not going to say how old she is. Relatively young, Jackie, aren't you?
Oh, thank you.
And I would imagine the next interest from the media will be 50 years. Hopefully I'm here, maybe not. And so that's why we want to do it.
In terms of communities, the mining communities were so tight-knit, weren't they? Have they recovered?
There are certain areas, they're still desolate places, you know what I mean?
Even 40 years on?
Yeah, and there were some really destitute places.
It needed to be done in a different way. In Germany, they had the same things going off. They had the coal, they closed them slowly, they found them jobs, they re-educated people, and I never understood why it couldn't be done here.
It's so important that people work for a living. You know, I know how I felt for 6 months after I made redundant when I thought, you know, 47, never going to be employed again. How important it was that you've got a job and that you get a job. And it's, OK, I'm getting emotional, but there'll be thousands like that. You know, this is 40 years on, isn't it? I don't know, it's...
the hardships some people lived, it was dreadful.
And what is it that makes you emotional, Dom? What's the particular memory?
We went met all this particular day, and I was looking around and I saw myself, a reflection of myself as a bloke that you're never going to work again. You know, I'm family over there with the kids running around, you're buying Christmas things and doing this and doing it, going on holidays, and I genuinely thought it was over. You know, I wouldn't like to think anybody would go through a similar thing.
Well, thank you both for coming in and telling your story, and we will continue to tell the stories from those closures.
Let's hope it's on the 50th year.
Let's hope so. We'll see you in another 10 years, shall we not? Well, Miners' Strike, a Frontline story, is on this Sunday at 9 p.m. on BBC Two and the BBC iPlayer. Now, are you feeling the love as much as we are tonight? It is, of course, Valentine's Day. We've been hearing your true love stories across our region. There's some right soppy ones out there. Take a look at these two. 89-year-old Arthur and Maureen Kaywood are spending their first Valentine's Day together in their new care home in Leeds. They've been married for a whopping 67 years. The couple moved into Alton Manor Care Home 6 months ago with their beloved pet budgie, Billy. They say the secret to a perfect marriage is being the best of friends. Oh, don't they look beautiful there?
What is it I love about you?
What for? The first time I saw him, I was stood in the bus stop and I'm just stood there waiting, and this voice in the corner, what are you doing tonight?
You've got to be friends and you've got to want to be with each other. And we've been lucky in that, for a lot of it, we've been able to do it together. What's the secret of a perfect marriage?
Perfect.
Don't let me down.
Oh, aren't they gorgeous? Well, we asked you to send your messages to your loved ones, and you certainly did not disappoint.
To my Valentine, thank you on the 50th anniversary of our engagement, 1974-2024. Thank you, love. Bye-bye.
Happy Valentine's, Phil. Thanks for putting up with me. Love you.
Happy Valentine's Day to my beautiful wife, Sonia. Love you lots and lots and lots, and hope to see so many more Valentines with you.
"10 years this year since we became one. Love you more and more each day, Nicola. You're my Valentine."
I wish you all my love now and always. After 48 years being together, my love is more stronger than the day I met your loving husband, Eamon.
A special Valentine's message to my wife, Kathleen, as she looks after me while my eye heals up. You are my Valkyrie, and I would follow you across the 9 realms and into eternity. So, hope that's romantic enough for you, everybody.
John, it's certainly romantic enough for me. I tell you what, I'm a blubbering mess over here. I can't believe our QR code worked. Woo!
I'll tell you what, you can fetch me a sick bag, but I'm only joking. Let's have a look at these lovely pictures here. Spring daffodils are out there at York Minster. Thanks for that, Sue. And more signs of spring in Rotherham. The crocai are already out. Send your pictures in to us and you might get them on the television tomorrow night. Now, the main thrust of the forecast again is how mild it is today. We had 14 degrees. It's not out of the stretch of the imagination that we could get 16 tomorrow. You can see all the mild air coming up from the southwest. There are weather fronts embedded in there, but Friday and the weekend is looking a bit better, although this weather front will bring rain on Saturday night into the first part of Sunday morning. There's a radar picture then. We've had patchy rain on and off for much of the day across North Yorkshire. We've got another arm of rain coming in from the southwest right now. So overnight it's very mild, extensive cloud, low cloud over the Pennines, further outbreaks of rain and drizzle, but very, very mild. Nighttime temperatures in most areas not falling much below 10 Celsius. That's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow's high water time is Farley 8:16, Bridlington at 8:26. So a wet start in places, that rain soon clearing away into the North Sea. A bit of a drier, brighter interlude coming through before more patchy rain spreads back up from the southwest. But one or two spots, West Yorkshire, eastern parts of South Yorkshire, may well reach 16 degrees, which is remarkable. That's really the average for early May, never mind the middle of February. Further ahead then, more rain to come Thursday night. Friday and Saturday look drier and brighter. Rain Saturday night, that clears through Sunday morning. That's the forecast, Amy.
You were spotted buying flowers in town earlier, so I know there's a heart there somewhere.
But they weren't for you.
Thank goodness, that would be weird. That's it from us. Happy Valentine's, lovebirds. Bye-bye.